working through the tasks for creating a classroom that encourages, nurtures, and teaches writing, there are certain goals I would assume we would strive to reach. Developing a positive attitude and appreciation for beginning writing in yourself as the adult that is working with young writers, for your students, and in the parents of your students. Provide a rich spectrum of experiences that the students can draw from to write. It's much more interesting to do when it's something that's fun to you. Provide the classroom structure that supports writing, time, materials, and routines. With these goals in place, children will have plenty of opportunity to practice their writing skills within an optimum environment. It all starts with attitudes. That's the most important piece. Beginning writers tend to be enthusiastic, creative, and eager to improve, especially when there is someone reading what they have written. Despite the skills of the children, encourage them to share their thoughts through writing and give them guidance to improve. You need acceptance. Developing an environment that encourages writing and is an environment that accepts what they are writing and again gives guidance for improvement. Everyone has a messy first draft, especially when they're just learning skills. They need encouragement. Encourage children to share their thoughts. This is the first step for creative writing. And modeling. Let children see you write, make and correct mistakes, and even become frustrated when it happens. And show respect. Showing your respect for children and their writing attempts. This role modeling will not only help them understand that you respect them and what they are doing is important and relevant, it will also help them learn to respect one another. They watch and see what you're saying to others as well as listen to what you say to them. Ways to show respect from the grayed out square on page 243 might be interesting points to check out and see. Purpose. Help children establish purposes for writing. Writing is always easier when you have a message planned for a particular audience. Purposes for writing can be developed through field trips, animals in the classroom, special events, favorite books, and even other classroom activities. What else can you think of to give children a purpose to write? Independence. Give children opportunity to develop their own autonomy by selecting their own topics for writing. Teach the children to read their writing, evaluate, and revise as needed. Help them learn to give and take response from their peers. And then a developmental philosophy is always really important as well. It's important to know and respect that children develop skills on different timelines from one another, and that it is a developmental process, just like they went through for reading. Develop content that encourages writing. Example in the book about the chicks that have been raised from eggs on page 245. That's the type of thing that catches children's interest. So what are some interests that you can think of that could encourage an interest in writing or sharing information for children you work with? How can children's interests you may be aware of fit in with state standards or other learning goals or guidelines that you may work with within your program or classroom? Content integration. What are some ways you can integrate the content of books or other learning activities and organize them around writing and reading? And then literature. Do not separate the processes of reading and writing. Readers are writers and writers are readers. Remember how these skills develop simultaneously? It's really important to think about. Talk about differences between different pieces of literature. The text uses the example of reading the book Whale Brother to the children when asking them to think of other stories where boys go out on their own into the world. The children in the text also think of Jack and the Beanstalk in regards to this. Jack goes out in the world on his own. Do you remember my example of reading different telling of Goldilocks and the Three Bears? It's the same concept. What other examples can you think of? There's personal journals and correspondence. An example in the text on page 247, Mr. Larson schedules time for writing in personal journals daily. Mr. Larson does not read the journals unless a child invites him to. When a child does invite him, he doesn't correct the spelling or grammar or punctuation, though he does respond to their thoughts and stories. His goal is to keep their interest and their motivation high for writing. Reflect on what you might think of this process that is shared in our text. And then warm-ups. Despite the work done to develop a place to support independent writers, there are still some who do not like the process of writing in general. Everybody has their own personality, and everybody has their tasks that they like to attend to. What do you think of the example of realizing the one child's interest in riddles and having him work on writing some down to share with his class peers? Think about, what would you do in a situation like this? What ways can you think of to get the child interested and motivated and to have a purpose for writing? And then webbing. Visual webbing activities can help children find a clear picture of what they may want to write about. Consider how you can use visual webbing to help develop interest and process for writing.